So obviously, Cornel West announced his run for president on Monday. And Krystal and Kyle Kalinske were, I guess, driving down the road at the time, and they decided to make a video reacting to the news that Cornel West is running on the People's Party ticket, to the extent they have a ticket, because they don't have ballot access in too many places, but you guys get the picture here. We responded. Go ahead.
They got a path mark, I think, in Iowa.
Right, yeah, exactly. That they'll convert into an office space. Yeah, exactly. So we actually reacted to some of this video when we did the post-duopoly show on Revolutionary Blackout Network on Monday. So we're not going to replay those segments, but there's parts of this that are just fantastic that we have to get to. So first, we'll just play a brief part just to set this up for those of you guys who haven't seen this at all. Here they are, concerned trolling about Cornel West's choice of party.
Cornel West, I love Cornel West. We had him on Krystal, Kyle and Friends.
He's a hero of mine.
He's a brilliant dude.
He's a hero of mine. She has gone full Anne Bancroft in The Graduate. She is Mrs. Robinson now.
She just seems kind of annoyed at the idea that they're doing this. Like, it seemed like something Kyle really felt they had to do.
They had a fight right before this.
She's bringing a little bit of negative energy to this. I'm sensing
to spaces where like people would disagree with him, and making himself be really likable and really agreeable while not like
keep your eyes on the road. Yeah, he's great.
Yes.
Keep your eyes on the road.
He did a great job on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's just a very dynamic, charismatic, intelligent guy who I happen to agree with on probably 90% of policy stuff.
Yeah.
So I love Cornel West. I'll always love Cornel West. But honestly, my theory on this, and I'm curious what you think, Krystal, is that I don't think he looked into the People's Party at all. You know what I mean? Like, I genuinely think it's sort of like a Boomer moment where he was approached and, hey, we want you to run and be our candidate or whatever, which, by the way, is a whole separate question, because usually the way these things worked is you have a fucking primary to determine who your candidate is going to be, and the People's Party apparently just anoint somebody.
God, I got to talk to my lawyer about that prenup.
We're the democracy people. Are you really? You just anointed somebody the head of your party. That's not the way you're supposed to have an election to figure out who's going to be the leader. But anyway.
Fair point.
Fair point. It's not like the Democrats have ever anointed the leader of their party. It's not like the Democrats have ever usurped the will of their voters to anoint their candidate of choice. No. Maybe Cornel West should have done more homework on his party, just like we researched the Democratic Party. What, you didn't find any red flags over your last 7 years of coverage of Democratic Party
politics? Nothing wrong here.
Yeah, nothing wrong here.
So that's a side point, but I don't think he knew like about all the issues with the People's Party.
All right, so there you have it. Now listen, I see a couple people in the chat. I think the choice to run as a People's Party candidate is worthy of some skepticism. A lot of people were wondering why he didn't try to run as a Green. I mean, there's never going to be a perfect option, and that two people supporting a doomed Marianne Williamson campaign within the Democratic Party, which has shown complete hostility to the kinds of candidates that they are inclined to back, how they are feeling that they are in a place to criticize a candidate for running outside of the Democratic Party. That's pretty astounding right off the bat, no?
They want to play radical leftists. They don't want to be radical leftists.
Right.
There's a big difference. Backing Marianne, that's cocktail party progressivism, right? They're not going to get kicked out of the club for that.
So here we go. So this is 10 minutes later, him really revealing what we were just saying, which is that they're not actually, at the end of the day, willing to actually threaten the Democratic Party come general election season. Here we go.
I don't like the whole, like, I'm not running to win thing in any scenario. I just don't like it. I think it's stupid. I think it's a waste of time. Yeah. And I don't think this idea of like, oh, I'm just raising awareness for the issues, I don't think that actually bears out in reality.
Pause.
God, the gardener has a nice ass.
You are not running simply to raise issues when you're running third party. Because when you're running third party, you are guaranteed to be in the game on election day, which means you are affecting the outcome of the election.
Right.
So it's not just raising issues at that point. What you guys are doing with Marianne, ironically, is simply raising issues because Marianne Williamson will not be on the ballot in November. So everything you just said there about how you don't like issues campaigns, you only want a chance to win, absurd.
Yeah,
given
you
the
have
fact
to,
that
yeah, of course.
you are championing an issues candidate who will not affect the final count of the election.
What you really mean is you only like candidates with no chance of winning who you can back without being put in a position where you actually might threaten the Democrats come election day with that candidate. You don't want to be put in that position.
Exactly.
Then you're going to get the Jill Stein treatment. You're going to get the Susan Sarandon treatment. You don't have the cojones for it.
Exactly.
I think you should run to win. I think you should take it seriously and run to win. Now, in the final summation, though, I will say this. There is no contradiction here between like my support of Marianne Williamson in the primary versus what would happen in a general. Because if Marianne doesn't win the primary and then it's a general election, and
I'm sorry, man. If you just watch Krystal through this video, Krystal is hilarious here.
Yeah, it's really good. It really is. It really works.
Krystal is just like her eyebrows lift every now and then. She's just like it's like she's in a Fellini movie.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Exactly. It does have that look.
With the big sunglasses.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Just completely bored. Like this is like a Fellini movie about an unfaithful wife. And this is the scene establishing why she's fucking the gardener. Because this is who she's married to.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so here's what he says here.
Support of Marianne Williamson in the primary versus what would happen in a general. Because if Marianne doesn't win the primary and then it's a general election, and I, the resident of New York, have a choice to vote for Biden, Trump, or Cornel West, yeah, I'm going to cast my vote for Cornel West.
I, as a resident of New York, will vote for Cornel West in a three-way race. Notice that qualifier there. Would he vote for Cornel West against Biden or Trump in Michigan? No, he would not. That's why he made a point to specify in New York I'd vote against the Democrats. In other words, I am not willing to, when it counts, on election day, not primary day, November 2024, whatever that date is, I will not vote against the Democrats on that day in a place that matters. That is what he's saying right there. That is why they support Marianne Williamson, because Marianne Williamson will not pose that threat either. How could you? Okay, so for everybody who's thinking, I mean, I think it's single digits, the number of people who are still hanging on to this dirty break fantasy of Marianne. How could you still believe she's going to do a dirty break after you just heard him say that? He just said, I would only vote third party in a safe blue state. I would not risk ruining the Democrats' day in a swing state. So that obviously means that they are, at the end of the day, blue no matter who. If it's Marianne, great. If it's Biden, they're going to support Biden. They are not interested in threatening the Democrats, period.
Well, never has there been a better case of people by their enemies. When do you ever see a hit piece on Kyle? When do you ever see a hit piece on Krystal? Why would they? They're no threat.
Right.
They're giving the signal. You don't have to come after me. I'm safe. I'm playing games. I'm playing my little primary games. But in the end, I'm going to sheepdog people back into the Democratic Party. Meanwhile, Jimmy Dore gets the hit pieces.
Oh, yeah, from CNN, from NBC. Yeah, indeed.
They get that. Aaron Mate has been smeared. Matt Taibbi, forget about it.
Right, of course.
These are the people they come after. If they don't come after you, you're probably not doing your job.
Right, exactly. All right, here we go.
But the difference between me and a lot of other people on the left is I see a lot of like cope and delusion that this is going to like usher in the revolution or usher in real change.
As opposed to your cope and delusion about Marianne Williamson? Really?
Right.
All right, let's hear this. This is great.
Reality, you cannot fool yourself. This absolutely is a protest vote, which will change Dickie McGee's acts. Like
a protest vote?
Will you stop saying that?
Yeah,
will you stop saying Dickie McGee's acts? I don't know where the fuck you got that from, but it is the stupidest catchphrase I have ever heard.
Also,
Dickie McGee's
what do you
acts.
mean
Nobody-
a protest vote will
Krystal,
change? Yeah.
You haven't sat Lance down and fucking told him he sounds like a moron every time he says that?
Dickie McGee's acts. Well, first of all, since when did these Bernie people, because I remember in 2016, there were some who voted Hillary in the end. There were some who voted Green. There were some who stayed out of it. I don't remember any of these Bernie people, these alumni of the Bernie movement, talking about how useless it is to vote third party, about how a protest vote just changes Dickie McGee's acts. First of all, a protest vote can influence the outcome of the election. It can cause massive disruption, as it did in 2016, where Jill Stein's vote totals were greater than Trump's margin of victory in a couple of different critical swing states. That is not changing Dickie McGee's acts. That's influencing the outcome of the election. That's disrupting the political process. Disruption. That is the goal here. Disruption. You guys are not interested in disruption. You guys talk a good game, but at the end of the day, you're good boys and girls. You don't want to disrupt. What you have to do now, to the extent that we are talking about engaging in electoral politics at all for 2024, it must be to disrupt. You must cause panic within the Democratic Party. Third party runs cause panic, as we will demonstrate pretty soon. Marianne Williamson runs, no panic. That's why you support Marianne. RFK, less panic. I won't say no panic, because when you're polling double digits, you give them a little scare. But at the end of the day, they're going to make quick work of him too. You watch.
Yeah, they write the occasional kind of condescending hit piece about them, but it's just for the clicks. Like, their heart's not in it.
No.
Like, you can tell when they write these pieces about Marianne's staff. That's just like gossip, because not only is she running for president, she's this half-assed LA guru author. So she, for the press, she's this kooky LA Hollywood figure. So you have this scandal with, she's a maniac behind the scenes. That's an interesting story for them. So they'll cover that, but they're not threatened by her. If they were threatened by her, they'd be talking about a lot more than abuse of staff. They'd be coming at her hard. And with RFK, they write the occasional conspiracy theorist, blah, blah, blah. They don't really give a fuck. As soon as Cornel West announced, wow, man, they had their story straight right away.
Don't change anything. If you want to vote that way as a matter of principle, fine. But don't convince yourself it's anything other than like, I'm just doing a middle finger to the system with my 2% of other people in the country who agree with me on doing
absolutely wrong. Absolutely demonstrably wrong. I just said, when you vote third party in a general election, you influence the outcome, especially when you do it in a swing state. Even if you don't do it in a swing state, you can help a third party get to 5%, which secures federal funding and makes it easier for them to run again in the future. It does not change nothing.
That's what you're trying to do.
It is astounding that two people who came out of the Bernie movement, who were at the very least very sympathetic to third-party voters coming out of those primaries because of how schmigged they were. I'm not allowed to say the R word until tomorrow, but I could say that now, right? Oh, YouTube changes their rule about this stuff tomorrow, by the way, folks. So we're just counting down the minutes.
Literally,
not midnight yet. 1 hour, 52 minutes.
Let's break out the whiskey, man.
Let's party, man. Let's have a countdown.
We'll keep it going until 12:01.
Exactly.
And then we'll be like,
yeah, exactly. All right. So anyway, demonstrably wrong.
It's a best case scenario if they even have ballot access. Like, if
you can always write them in.
You can always write them in. But if they even are able to make that a real option for people across the country.
Which I do think it'll either be a moot point, because either they won't have ballot access, number one, or number two, he will say, I'm running as a People's Party candidate as an independent. And so he'll be running as an independent.
All right. So either way, he'll be an option to vote for on election day as a write-in, as an independent, or on the People's Party line. And that's bad, because you're changing Dickie McGee's acts by voting for him, even though we just proved that that's not true.
I cannot believe she could get him to do that to his hair, and she can't get him to stop saying that.
The Dickie McGee's acts, yeah.
I think it'll be one of those two things.
Yeah.
Is my best guess.
I mean, I will say, in terms of the general election, there's a huge interest in a potential independent candidate this time, because,
I don't agree with you. I know what you're saying according to the poll. I know what you're saying, but I don't agree. But anyway, finish your point.
Finish. Let her finish. Let her finish. She obviously did not finish last night, so let her finish. All right, don't talk over. That's what got you into this mess in the first place, right? All right.
If there is anything Keaton knows about, it's how to maintain a healthy marriage.
Exactly. Word of advice. Word of advice. But anyway, so he says I'm disagreeing because he thinks that it's a bluff. He thinks, yeah, people always say they're open to third parties, but in the end they never vote for him. That's the point. Okay, let's go.
People are disgusted with the idea of like having to pick between Trump and Biden. There's no doubt about it. And so I think there are 2016 levels of interest in a third party candidate. You know, in 2020, there wasn't really a significant third party effort that garnered much support. So I think you could theoretically have like Jill Stein levels of support for a third party candidate this time around.
It was moron. I'm sorry. I was 28 during the 20. What was I? The 19. What was I? 2016. I was 29 going on 30. I remember the 2016 election. You were doing this for a living in 2016. You don't remember that the Jill Stein vote, and I believe it was Wisconsin, was greater than Trump's margin of victory? How can you, is that just 3%? Doesn't mean anything, right? Of course it meant something. It was hugely consequential. That triggered the Democrats hard. It shook them up really hard. If you can get to 4% or 5% and post those numbers consistently, that causes major chaos within the electoral process, which is what we need to do right now, because what we're doing now is not working, obviously.
Right. It destroys the system as it exists, which should be our objective. It is not your objective. Exactly. Your objective is not really to change the system. It's to play civility politics, which Krystal always says she's against, but she's very much for. Backing Marianne is the ultimate empty gesture. That is civility politics in a nutshell. It's a politics where you have polite conversations on shows like this that have absolutely no chance of changing Dickie McGee-Zacks.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 3%.
But that was a lot more than in 2020. So that's what I mean.
Saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. But, that's the level of third party support that, that I think someone could theoretically garner this time around. But again, you have to, like, Green Party is a real organization. They had ballot access almost everywhere, and that does make a huge difference in terms of what you're able to do.
And they have problems too, but it's nowhere near what the People's Party has. I mean, it's just not remotely close. But like,
but one thing that the People's Party has now is a beloved person running on their ticket, a well-known and well-respected, beloved person on the ticket. They're not running Howie Hawkins or Joe Jorgensen or Gary Johnson or even Jill Stein. I know there's a lot of people who love Jill Stein. I respect Jill Stein a great deal. She was not the candidate to ignite a movement behind her, right? She just didn't have that X factor that you need, that an independent like Jesse Ventura had. You haven't had a third party come forward with a magnetic and well-known personality like a Cornel West now. So obviously this is more of a threat in the time being. Look, we'll see who the Greens come up with this time. But that is different about this. And you consistently do have a lot of people saying they want third party options. But the problem is, you guys who are in a position to encourage people to vote third party anywhere and everywhere, no matter what it does to your beloved Democrats, you guys never direct people to do that. You always say, well, if you're in a swing state, you should do this, blah, blah, blah. If you're in New York, fine. If you're in a red state, fine. You need to actually have the courage to tell people, yes, vote for a third party of your liking before you vote inside the two-party system. That's what it takes, and you're not willing to go there. Instead, you're just gaslighting people about how it makes no difference. If it didn't make a difference, you wouldn't be so fucking worried about it. The Nation wouldn't be writing articles about it on day 3 of Cornel West's campaign.
Well, if they start saying that, they're going to get called right-wingers on the op-ed pages of the Washington Post.
Right.
And they are just not prepared to go there. My question is, could the Green Party, because I think this has been done in the ancient past of American politics when we had more active third parties, can third parties choose to endorse a candidate whether they have a relationship with them or not? Like, can't the Green Party endorse Cornel West and put him on their party line all over the country?
Yeah, they offered to do that with Bernie. Jill Stein offered Bernie her ballot line in 2016 after he got screwed. He turned it down.
Okay,
Jesse Ventura offered to run as a Green Party candidate in 2020. They turned him down. They wanted to run Howie Hawkins. You know,
and this is exactly why I created this.
I love you, but you are not serious people.
If the Green Party were fucking serious, they'd be like, yeah. Money talks, bullshit walks. We want to fucking win. You know what, Cornell, you're our candidate.
These polls too, where it's like 70% of the country is open to an independent candidate, and then every election rolls around, and every election it's like everybody who votes, which is only like 50% of the country, 60% of the country, it's overwhelmingly Democrats and Republicans. So it's like,
well, that's partly because you tell them to. People like you who could actually create some momentum behind third parties, you don't. Instead, you make videos from your car about how it's a waste of time. It changes Dickie McGee's ex.
Polls say that. Like, people in theory love the idea, but then in reality, they don't. And again, the reason why, I'll reiterate my original points, it's the most important point. If you are not first and foremost putting front and center, we're going to get rid of.
All right, man. Living with him has shattered her nerves. Like as soon as he was like, and I'm going to make this point, her neck like involuntarily smacked.
Oh boy, here it comes. Here comes another one. All right, here we go. Let's listen to this because this is good.
Like, people in theory love the idea, but then in reality, they don't. And again, the reason why, I'll reiterate my original points, it's the most important point. If you are not first and foremost putting front and center, we're going to get rid of first past the post voting and get ranked choice voting, then this is all a total waste of time. And it's very weird to me that everybody likes to put the cart before the horse in this discussion. It's like, no, I'm not having this conversation until you do that first.
Oh, you're not.
If you do that and you come to me and say, Kyle, we need you to be a spokesperson for the Green Party, bro, sign me up. I'm in. Like, let's do this shit.
Bro, sign me up. I'm in.
Do that first, you are.
Okay, so
you are. You'll be
what
there.
he just says there is, if you pass ranked choice voting, then I will support third party politics. What that is probably a fourth or fifth way of saying is I will support third party politics if third party politics doesn't threaten the duopoly. Because what does ranked choice voting afford people? It affords people the option to vote green, knowing that they're not going to screw the Democrats in the final count, because once the Greens get knocked out, their votes go to their second choice, which is Joe Biden.
Which is going to be the Democrat.
And this is the thing. Like, look, I'm for ranked choice voting because I've been successfully convinced by advocates of ranked choice voting that, yes, sort of assuaging the anxieties of a lot of these people about, I don't want the Republican to win, or, I don't want the Democrat to win on the right. Like, that is kind of worth doing as a tactic to just advance the cause of third party. So, yeah, fine, I'm for it. But at the end of the day, you have to be willing to vote to win. And now, without ranked choice voting, I still say in this situation where you're going to be faced with either Biden or Trump or Biden or DeSantis, which in my mind is a million times worse. Biden, DeSantis is a million times more urgent to vote third party. If you cannot muster it up within you, given those dire options for president, if you don't have the courage in that moment to walk into a voting booth wherever the fuck you live, I don't care if it's a safe red state, safe blue state, or the closest swing state in the country, if you don't have it in you to go in there and vote third party, then you are not a threat to the system, period. And right now you must act as a threat. So if you want to threaten the system right now, you have to be looking very seriously at Cornel West. Now, as I said on Monday on RBN, the People's Party has a lot to answer for, and it may very well come to Nick Branagh having to step the fuck down and get out of there, right? If there's too much baggage associated with him. They have 90 days, or now 87 days, since I said that 3 days ago. I would give them until Labor Day to prove that they are worth the investment. The investment, meaning working people donating money and time.
Right.
They have burned a lot of goodwill. They have to win that back. I would give them 3 months out of respect for Cornel West to do that. If they cannot do that, I cannot endorse the campaign in the sense that I cannot encourage working people to donate time and money. However, that is different from saying that on election day, I will not go into a booth and say, yeah, I'm voting for Cornel West. If he's on the People's Party line, I guess I'll vote for him there. If he's on an independent line, I'll vote for him there. If he's not on the ballot at all, if they can't get their shit together, I'll write him in. But there's no way I'm walking into a voting booth in November 2024 and not voting for a third-party candidate. And unless the Greens pull their heads out of their ass and nominate someone great, that's probably going to be Cornel West. Now, that is very different from me advising people to invest in his campaign. I cannot do that in good conscience until the People's Party pulls their heads out of their ass and gets their shit together, right? But on election day, if you want to be a threat when the deal goes down, you got to vote for a third-party candidate. I'm not saying it has to be Cornel West for you. That's up to you. But you have to go in there and vote to disrupt. Otherwise, don't engage at all. I mean, if you don't want to engage in electoral politics, you think it's all bullshit, that's valid too. But if you're going to engage, if it's fucking Biden, Trump, or Biden, DeSantis, how could you not go in there and vote for third party?
Well, if you're in a no-win situation, the only thing that makes sense is to change the game. So playing within the Democratic Party, it's a no-win situation. You cannot win. So the only thing you can possibly do that holds any hope of changing the system is to change the game. You got to flip the table. You got to change all the rules. Third party gives you the potential to do that. And the arguments that Kyle is making here are the arguments they always make to demoralize people about going in that direction. I would argue, what do you have to lose?
Please clap.